G'day, Rob. How you going?
Hey, how's it going?
My name's Ricky. I'm from Wall of Sound in Australia, but today I'm in Japan. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm actually in a car service center for Subaru in Santa Monica, California, and they gave me a nice quiet room because, I had a couple different rooms they gave me and I could hear sirens and all this madness. LA urban how do you say the soundtrack of LA at its finest. And they put me in a room, actually a conference room. So I'm much better now. But literally, I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this interview? And
Wow,
we're good.
it sounds like you're having the same experience as I am because I'm in this tiny studio Airbnb with my 5-month-old son for a Tokyo visit, and I was like, how can I get the right conditions going? But it makes me feel better that you're as nervous as I am.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. Yeah, I think we're going to be in good shape now. Yeah, my son's actually in Japan. He's playing with suicidal tendencies there in the next couple days. I know they're flying there right now. I dropped him off at the airport. That's why I'm here because he had a flat tire and I had to I wanted to help him and get the tire fixed, and he was driving around on the spare. So I was like, you know what? I'll drop him off at the airport and I'll go by the service center and get him a new tire as he's flying to Japan. So anyway,
Yeah,
yeah,
nice.
cool.
Full circle moment. And so we actually spoke to Ty when he was in Australia recently for suicidal tendencies.
Oh, okay, cool. There you go. Yeah, full, like you said, full circle.
And to go even more full circle, obviously, you started your career with this band. Ty's now involved with this band, and now you're coming full circle with Infectious Grooves and hanging out with Mike. Is it all weird how all these forces are coming together?
It's definitely surreal. Every once in a while, Mike will get a hold of me and ask me, if there's availability. Like he kind of checks the schedule to see what my schedule is. And this is over the course of, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. We've only done like 3 shows in 25 years or something. It's kind of crazy. But anytime that we do a show, it's a lot of fun. And there's something special about Australia. I feel like the two places for the Infectious Grooves that had a real solid, loyal following was Australia and actually France. We did extensive touring in those two countries. So getting back down to Australia for me is really exciting. Plus, I haven't been there in over 10 years, even with Metallica. I have a lot of friends there, I surf, and most of my friends that were pro surfers were actually not Americans. They were Australians for some reason. It's like they adopted suicidal tendencies and infectious grooves. And back in 2003, when I joined Metallica, um, I was able to bring those friends into the Metallica world because Kirk also surfed, surfs. He still surfs, of course, lives in Hawaii. And we created this connection and this bond with all these wild Australians, these Aussies, and for me to go back with this particular band is pretty exciting. It was always a party, you know what I mean? It was like I even remember playing a backyard party when I was in Suicidal back in the day, and it was all like the top 10 pro surfers in the world were there. Even Kelly Slater was there, but it was like, you know, uh, the biggest of the big, Mark Occhilupo was there, and I remember Barton Lynch, Luke Egan, Shane Powell, all these top 10 pros were at this one party, and I think it was in Narrabeen, out in Sydney. So again, crazy cool memories. Getting back over there for me is a blessing and an honor, and it's fortunate that we have the time to do it because I've been so busy with Metallica. We've been touring pretty hard, and we've taken a 5 month break, which is about to kick into gear again here very soon. So being able to get a few shows in, especially down in Australia, is really special.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love the whole surf theme you've got going. Even on the surf poster, you've got like a crocodile surfing and stuff. So you guys are really bringing the reunion back, right?
Yeah, 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 definitely. I mean, Australia reminds me the most of where I grew up and how I grew up and the people I grew up with. And, being from Southern California, it has the spirit of that, just all over the place. It's, my kind of scene, my type of people. I even remember being out there with Suicidal Tendencies when we were opening for Alice in Chains, and Lane Staley from Alice, he was sick or something, he had a flu, so we had to cancel the show. So we ended up hanging out in Melbourne for like a week or more. And we made new friends. We're going to barbecues. We're like, it just was like we were locals, you know, girlfriends, the whole thing. It was like, we had our community, and it's just really fond memories. I think that was actually the last full tour that Alice in Chains had done back then, back in the 90s before they started up again. So again, a lot of memories, a lot of great friends, I
Yeah.
always, I
So,
always, I always go to Australia with no surfboards, and I come back with like three new surfboards. It's like, it's kind of a blessing and a curse. It's like, awesome. How am I going to get these boards back to Los Angeles?
but I feel like Aussies have the same experience when they visit Santa Monica, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've had a lot of friends, like it's kind of crazy because I've had a lot of friends from Australia end up in different parts of the world where I am. So I'll be in France, and I'll be surfing down in Biarritz in the southwest region, and I'll run into surfers that now have relocated there, who I met originally in parts of Australia. I'll be in Hawaii, at the North Shore, and I'll run into, some of the pros, or I'll be in, like Japan or something. Somehow the Aussies always find their way to different parts of the globe, and it's all sort of hinged on surfing. Definitely in Los Angeles, there's been a few that have lived out here and started families, and then they relocated, back to Australia, but they were here, at Venice Beach for a while. And, somehow it's like this connection that never really ends, more than any other sort of, I don't know, sort of batch of people. The Aussies always seem to find their way around the world to me, into my music, and whether it's Metallica or Suicidal, or Infectious Grooves. So it's really fitting to get back over there. I know Mike Muir has a very close connection to Australia, and his kids were born there. I mean, it's exciting, and again, it feels. I guess the biggest thing to take out of all this is really it's like a party. It's maybe less how do you say, like sometimes when you're playing these massive shows in stadiums, there's this enormous pressure, and they're fun. It's fun, don't get me wrong. It's incredible, and we're blessed to have that, especially with Metallica. But there's something about, getting back into the clubs or small theaters, in reconnecting with the audience on that level, it's very personal as well. So, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. And when you play with Infectious Grooves, I know you've only played a couple shows ever, but do you sort of take on a different Rob persona? So sort of, less braids, less basketball shirts, a kind of different kind of Rob, or is it the same kind of onstage presence as in Metallica?
That's a great question, because the last show we did was about 4 or 5 years ago in Sao Paulo. Maybe it was 4 years ago. It was before the pandemic. And I remember just before I was walking out on stage, I had brought maybe a change of clothes. I'm not sure if it was shorts and, pair of Vans. That's what I normally would wear. And I had sort of these, I feel like I had these work boots on or something, like more hiking boots. And I ended up wearing those in the show. I just said, you know what? I'm just going to wear what I'm in, and it was basically my load-in clothes, my day wear, for whatever reason, that particular day. And I remember it being like a pair of hiking boots or something. I don't know why I had hiking boots on, but maybe it was raining earlier or something and there was mud, but I ended up wearing those on stage. And and just kind of going with it. And it was an exciting show. It was actually that show in Sao Paulo was the gig that kind of reignited the flame to where it was like, you know what? We've got a lot of fans around the world. We'd never played in South America, and kind of let us know that, there's some relevance there. And from that experience, there was offers that kind of came through to play additional shows in different parts of the world, which we couldn't do. We were all very busy at the time. So, it's true. There's a certain level of, I don't want to say it's relaxed, but it's different. And the difference is not a bad thing. It's like, do you like sushi at a highbrow kind of restaurant, or do you like a barbecue? It's just kind of like, they're both great. You know what I mean? It's like, and not to say that Metallica is a highbrow sushi dish, because there's still a lot of grounding energy in that style of music with those fans. The Metallica fans are the best fans in the world, but there's also something that's kind of cool about playing, a club, and drinking a beer and having a piece of chicken, that's been on the grill. It's all good, just different experiences in life and different levels of creativity. One thing I can say is, as a bass player, it's a different challenge for me. Metallica is certainly challenging, and there's a physical thing that goes with that. And with the bass playing in Infectious Grooves, it's like I feel like I'm using different muscles, different technique. Um, the style is a bit different. The feel, it's a challenge in a lot of ways. But I kind of opens my eyes to like being a musician and what, wow, I used to do this. It's fun to reconnect, but it is a challenge. Like, I've been kind of doing certain types of scales every night before I go to sleep, and just trying to get my stamina up for that style of playing, because it's different and it's aggressive in a different way. But it's a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it. I feel like I've been playing more than ever lately. I don't know what it is. It's supposed to be 5 months off from touring with Metallica, and it's ended up being kind of a multitude of recordings and in rehearsals and filmed kind of jams and different things that have sort of popped up. All great stuff, don't get me wrong. I'm blessed, but it just sort of all has happened at the same time.
Yeah, when it rains, it pours. It's so interesting. You sort of mentioned that Metallica 5 month break. It kind of works to be doing some stuff with Infectious Grooves. But did that was that the kind of precipice to kind of go back to Infectious Grooves and go, this is the right time to be doing this? Or was it not the 5 month break with Metallica? Was it just the right time for other reasons to be getting back together?
It seems like maybe it was a little bit of both. The stars have to align. It's not easy. There's various musicians who, in fact, some of the musicians couldn't make it, like Brooks Wackerman, who's been probably the most consistent drummer in Infectious Grooves, also is, a touring member and a touring partner in the band Avenged Sevenfold. Avenged Sevenfold is currently on tour in the US. So he's busy. And it just worked out. Mike knew Jay, and I guess from Suicidal and Slipknot doing shows few years back, and he really, was a big, huge fan of Jay's drumming, and thought it would be great to bring him in to Infectious Grooves and have him on board for this tour. And it's worked out really well. Jay's an exciting player. Every drummer that's played in this band has been really special. Back on our first album we had, and our first tour, we were blessed with having Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction at the height of their success, and he jumped on board. And they're selling out massive festivals and headlining their own shows. Everything's a sellout. And all of a sudden he's, I don't want to say stepping down, but he's playing with Infectious Grooves and we're opening for Aussie and we're literally like challenging ourselves in its total fear. I mean, they're chanting, the crowd's like, oh, see, see, and we're just like, oh, start the song. You know, we couldn't leave gaps between songs because they would start chanting Aussie. It was already a sold out tour. People didn't know who we were. We're the Infectious Grooves, but nobody cared that, you know, Steven was from Jane's Addiction or Mike and I were from Infectious Grooves, or Adam was from the band Excel. It was like, we don't care. We love Aussie and you've got to prove yourselves to us, you know. So that keeps you on your toes. And it's a wake-up call. And we went through that together back then. You know, and it was also like we'd play a show, a local show in Hollywood, and it'd be like, is anyone going to show up? You know, and then we'd find out that that gig would sell out, which was cool. And then the next step up from there, same thing. Is anyone going to even come to the gig tonight? Because it wasn't like, it was different back then. You didn't have the internet. You know, promoting gigs was very street. You know, a lot of it you had to do on your own, or you had to put your own ads out. It was very independent back then. So we never really knew what the gig was going to become. And then I think it was the second gig, we had played a venue called the Palace in Hollywood, and that gig maybe holds 1,800 or 2,000 at best, but there was a line around the block and everybody came to that show. I mean, it was like Social Distortion, Rage Against the Machine, Slayer, guys from Slayer. The Chili Peppers were on stage. Fishbone was there. All these actors, you know. It's like all of a sudden the band had this interesting cast of characters checking us out. And you know, some of the guys in our band knew some of these people, and but you know, there were different factions attached to each member. You know, it's like our guitar player was friends with David Arquette was his roommate, you know, and he's a famous actor back then. So David Arquette brought all these people, and you've got, you know, Keanu Reeves is there in River Phoenix and blah, 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 blah. But then you got the Chili's there and they got their gang, and you got the Fishbone guys and their gang, Social D's there, you know, and that's just to name a few. So we're just kind of like, wow, this is really happening, you know. And for us, we didn't know all these people. So it was kind of like a lot of pressure. But that's kind of how it's been. There's been these magic moments and these surreal moments. And I guess the beauty in it is it's never certain, you know? It's like even going to Australia now. I mean, it's been what, over 30 years. Yeah, well, it's been about 30 years, maybe less, but we're going there and we really don't know what to expect. We expect, no matter what, we expect a good time, a party, reuniting with friends, celebrating this brand of music that we kind of didn't have any particular rules for. It was, let's combine James Brown with Slayer and throw some ska ingredients in there and always have the punk rooted in there. So there was just like no rules. That was the recipe. And and there's just something to me that's really fun and special about that. And you can't always have that in every situation. You know, Metallica is a different band, is a different vibe. We write different, we play different. You know, when I work with Jerry Cantrell, you know, it's a different vibe. You know, Jerry's, you know, the main composer, and he's brilliant, right? But it's always going to be different. And I just feel blessed and honored to be able to work with my heroes, whether it's, you know, James, Lars, and Kirk, whether it's Ozzy or, you know, Mike, you know, Mike Muir or whoever. I always feel that I've been able to surround myself with incredible musicians who are unique and you know, not just super talented collaborators and you know, in kind of masters of their instrument, but also just great people, you know, and I feel blessed.
Yeah, I was going to mention the Aussie moment because you talked about that experience supporting him, and then probably later in your career ended up playing with him. So all of these different artists find their way of coming together in different stages of life and different realms and that kind of thing. How interesting.
Yeah, I mean, with Aussie, it was crazy because back when I was 16 or seven, yeah, 16, 17, I played in backyard parties in a down in the west side of Los Angeles, and we would cover, Black Sabbath songs, Aussie solo material. We'd also cover like Rush songs and Led Zeppelin. Eventually as you get older and you kind of grow into your career and your status as a musician, you end up meeting your heroes. So for me to be actually writing and recording with my hero, who was Ozzy, it was just a dream come true. I remember being on stage, playing, Sweet Leaf or maybe Iron Man. And we start doing this dance together, which became the crab walk. And I remember like it took me back to, being a teenager and playing those same two songs in a backyard party at Venice Beach. You know what I mean? It was just like a moment. I just start laughing. Um,
And
you
that's how
know,
the crab walk started.
that's how it started. Yeah, he would do different things to different band members. Like he would pull Zach Wild's hair or beard, when Zach had a beard. And it actually annoyed Zach. He didn't like that too much. And I think at one point he grabbed Ozzy's hair and said, see what that feels like, you know. But Ozzy would just get so fired up, it was like anything could happen. He would scratch you, you might get bitten. And the guitar, Joe Holmes, who was playing guitar when I first joined Ozzy's band, had warned me, he goes, I'm serious, Robert. If Ozzy comes over to you, be careful because you never know what's going to happen. He might scratch, grab you by the shoulders and you might have these big welts in you just get so consumed by the performance. And he used to spray us with these water cannons. And I thought it was fun. I had to take my shoes off after a while because I knew it was always going to, turn into a wet sort of situation. And it used to drive Joe Holmes crazy because he had his pickups, and his guitar, and water would get in the electronics. And it was like, he gets so mad at Ozzy. But that's just how it was with him. It was an adventure, and you never know what you were going to get. It's like same thing with suicidal tendencies. When before Ozzy, when I joined ST, I was always wearing the t-shirts and the caps around the neighborhood. And I went to high school with Rocky George, who was the guitar player, and we were like best friends. And when they needed a bass player, he asked me to audition, so I did. And originally, actually, turned down I got the gig, but then I kind of turned it down because I had my own band, had this little funk band. But the reality was, and I was like, well, we might get a deal and we might get this and we might get that. And the reality is we weren't getting anything. And, I wanted to believe that we would. That band was called True Colors, actually. And, Rocky was like, okay, because I said, I don't know, you know, my bass teacher wants the gig. Maybe you should give it to him, a bass teacher of mine at the time. And he goes, Robert, listen, he goes, we're going to Europe. It's our first arena tour. We're opening for Anthrax. I'm going to give you 24 hours to think about this, and then we'll talk tomorrow, but I think you're making a mistake if you don't jump on board. I called him 20 minutes later and I said, I'm in, and that from that moment on, my life changed. That's kind of there's the domino effect. You work with one band and then you meet another artist or band, and it just kind of develops, and they're all great experiences, but opportunities kind of present themselves along the journey, so to speak. Because I can even remember opening for Metallica with Suicidal Tendencies, and literally seeing the size of the production and going, oh my God, I will never be in a band that big. You know what I mean? I just like that's not ever going to happen to me. It's just, I might as well like quit now and go become a plumber or something because, it's just not going to happen, and of course, with time, your dreams come true. So it's all been an incredible journey for me. And again, being able to create, collaborate, and even at my age, I feel more blessed and creative than ever, actually. I just feel um, a bit more in command of the instrument than ever before, a bit more knowledgeable on composition, but still understanding the value and the strength of being sort of, I don't want to say naive to structure and writing as a whole, but having no rules. There's something that's really cool about that. With Infectious Grooves, there was no rules. So that is always something that I really appreciate about writing with that group of musicians, with those guys. I've been blessed with all the best musicians in the world, and they all live right around me, which is crazy. I mean, it's like everybody's a phone call away. I'll be there in a half hour. It's like, okay, it's a great environment here where I live.
I love all the stories that kind of intertwine and how you get to the crab work, how you get to how you met this member and that member and how you ended up in this band. It's really, really great to hear about all that. And then when I think about today's Infectious Grooves, it's someone like Jay, for example, who's coming to the party. He's going through a lot, leaving Slipknot, joining suicidal tendencies. Is it nice to be spending some time with him musically now during this kind of strange time for him?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting with Jay because I didn't know him before all of this, you know. One of the things with Metallica is we get very busy, and I almost feel like we're sort of in this bubble, which is sometimes a creative bubble, sometimes a touring bubble. It's just this zone. And when you get home from tour, sure, you're gonna reconnect with your musician friends and or your friends in general. And sometimes you're gonna run into other musicians from other bands that you maybe didn't have a prior connection with. And Jay would have been a musician that I didn't have a prior connection with. We just didn't cross paths. I know he crossed paths with Lars and all that. So it was a bit of a mystery for me. Um, I was excited to finally meet him, and I was a big fan, or am a big fan of his dad's playing. You know, so it was kind of a surreal thing for me. It's like, wow, this drummer from Slipknot, I only ever see this dude in the mask. And it's like, who is he? I didn't know what he looked like even. And that was pretty funny because I almost didn't want to know what he looked like until we were in that room rehearsing together. And that's how it was. Um, Going back to the position of drummer in Infectious, I think about, Josh Freese, who's now with the Foo Fighters, and him being 19 and playing in Infectious. I think about Brooks Wackerman again. He was 15 when he recorded the Groove Family Psycho album. I think about Stephen Perkins. There's a drummer that is not often talked about who played on the first album, and his name is Scott Crego. And Scott Crego actually is the drummer for the Eagles currently. So we've had quite a lineage of players who
Wow.
have served as the drummer in this particular band. So Jay actually steps into some, you know, I don't know. So he's entering a position that's carried a lot of powerful lineage, I guess you could say. And again, the music has always been really centered around the drums. Anyway, drummers love it because they just can go crazy, and we don't really care as long as we can keep up with them.
Creative license to go crazy, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And this is
Perfect.
the first time that we've actually played. Uh, I mean, I know it's a short run, but it's 7 shows altogether, and this is the first time, and I can't even remember when we did more than one show. So, it's cool. It's like it's a bit of a dream come true. Again, things happen when they're meant to happen. Nothing's ever forced. Uh, you know, I'm always trying to make time for my family, just to really choose my time wisely. Time becomes it becomes the most valuable treasure in your life at a certain point, and it just so happens that we have this time to do this.
It's so exciting. Australia, can't wait for the Infectious Groove shows coming up really soon. I hope they're going to be as awesome for you as they will be for us.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, I've got to ask you, 72 seasons world tour for Metallica, going strong. Will we get Metallica down to Australia anytime soon, Rob?
Yes, yeah, we will be there. And it's definitely going to happen. I can't give you specific dates right now, but just understand and believe and know um, that we're coming down to you. It's going to happen. We're excited. Kirk and I mean, whenever we go to Australia, it's so special because it becomes not just a musical experience, it becomes a surf experience. It's like the two, it's kind of like we almost forget we're on tour, because we'll be going to Bells Beach or we're going to Kira, hanging out on the Gold Coast. We went surfing in Wollongong, and we went to Calbera on the West Coast outside of Perth. It's like we go on these adventures, and the music is a part of that. So it's almost like the soundtrack to the experience that we're having with our friends and the ocean. Um, and we haven't had that in a long time. So I'm looking forward to that part of the 72 seasons tour cycle, having that again with Kirk. And kicking it all off is going to be being down there with you all in a couple weeks. So it's all happening, it feels like the party's getting started. We're warming it up, and we're going to spend some time down in your neck of the woods here in the near future. So look forward to seeing y'all real soon.
Well, Rob, we can't wait either, both for Infectious Grooves and for Metallica, whenever that time might be. Hope that you and Infectious Grooves enjoy your time here in Australia. And on behalf of Wall of Sound in Australia and Tokyo today, thank you for taking the time to chat with us.
Hey, thank you for having me, and just let everybody know, it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a party. And, to me, that's the spirit of it all the time. Even with the Metallica shows, Kirk and I do these duets where we go up there and we write a song for each city, literally, like a lot of times it's within 24 hours of the gig. And we write a song with lead section, bridge, all the changes, and they're instrumentals, and we put a lot of thought and energy into them. But it's kind of this raw, it's like we're street musicians. There's a purity to it, and it's very honest. And that really is a tip of the hat to jamming and the spirit of jamming, and in challenging ourselves, so people think, oh, this big production and all this stuff. No, we're stripping it down and we're giving you ourselves in this raw form. And I feel like that connection also exists with Infectious Grooves. We're coming down there. We haven't done more than, 3 shows in the last 25 years. It's raw. We're playing smaller venues. I don't know, what it's going to look like. I don't care. I'm just excited to get back to you guys and play this crazy music and really have a good time at the end of the day. And maybe we're all ending up at the bar having a drink, having a pint, it's like it's that kind of a thing. And you need that. We all need that in our lives too. So it all goes hand in hand. So we'll
I love
see you.
that. 100%. Well, I'll have a pint with you soon in Melbourne. I hope you have a great trip down. And thanks again for taking the time to chat with us.
All right. Cheers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you, Rob.
Cheers.